This is Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. It's powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters. Hey entrepreneurs, my name is Felix and I'm the host of the Shopify Masters podcast. Each week we put out podcast interviews with successful e-commerce entrepreneurs or experts to give you inspiration, motivation, and actionable tips to increase your traffic and sales so your store can generate the sales you need to live the life you want. On the last episode, Shazam Mohammed told the story of how he started a business where he doesn't even have to work every day. In this episode, you'll learn from an entrepreneur that's built a $100,000 business from picking up the phone and calling cart abandoners. In this episode, you'll learn how to use Facebook ads to validate if there are any signs of life for your market, how to use question-based selling, and what you should say when you're calling cart abandoners. Today, I'm joined by Ahmed Iqbal from GetNadif.com. That's GetNadef.com. Nadif sells handheld bidets and bathroom accessories and was started in 2015 and based out of Toronto. Welcome, Ahmed.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you on. So, tell us a little bit more about your store and the products that I guess some of the most popular products that you sell.
Yeah, sure. So I sell mostly bidets and a lot of other bathroom accessories, but mostly bidets and just like bathroom hygiene products. That's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward, pretty specific. I don't focus too much on other things. I just focus specifically on bidets.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty specific. And how did you, come across this? There's so many things you can sell, obviously. How did you come across these particular products? Like, what made you decide to focus on these?
I think that's a great question. It came out of frustration. I think most I have a lot of ideas, and I'm a kind of entrepreneur. I like trying to solve problems. But I find that the endeavors that have the most success are ones where you actually are executing on from your own frustration. So for me personally, I grew up in Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East. Traveled a lot as a child when I was very young, and I lived in a lot of countries where bidets were commonplace. Like they were already in all the bathrooms. People were already using it. It was like a normal part of life, and so I grew up with that standard, or with that level of hygiene or just that expectation. Mm-hmm. And so when I moved to Canada for university when I turned 18, that was something that we didn't have here, and that was kind of it felt weird for me to use the bathroom. It was just something that I thought I needed to change. And I went without one for a while, but then I just thought I really want one. I wonder how easy it might be to install in a bathroom here. Actually, I talked to a lot of my other friends who have a similar background to me that traveled around a lot. They had the same frustration as me, and I would ask them questions like, why don't you have one? Why don't you use one? And the answer was one of two, if not both answers, which was one, they don't sell them here, which is true. There's no, you can't just, you don't even know where if I asked you where would you get one, you probably wouldn't be able to tell me. Mm-hmm. And secondly, they're probably too hard to install. It probably requires a lot of renovations, and the contractor has to come in or something like that. And actually both answers I felt like I could solve for. One, about people not knowing that it's there. Well, with Facebook ads or with Twitter ads or with any kind of targeted ads, I can just reach whoever wants one. And secondly, in terms of how easy it is to install, actually I found a supplier and we tweaked the design a little bit to make installation under 2 minutes long. I actually have a video on the website that shows you how to install it in less than 2 minutes. So I solved both of those problems, and I thought that, hey, if I could do this, then anybody could do this, and that's kind of how the gears started to spin.
I like this, and I've heard this a lot actually recently, where you take an idea or a product that's not actually that innovative, like it's not something that's new, right? Bidets have existed for such a long time, like you said, it's everywhere in all the places that you've traveled to, but you found out that there's specific tweaks or specific issues either with the product itself or with the way that people can get access to the product, and then you improve those things, and all of a sudden you have a business. So I think think this is a really important point because a lot of entrepreneurs always try to think of brand new ideas, brand new products, when you can just find what's already out there, what's already selling, and then find ways to improve it. So when you were doing this kind of research, I'm not sure how formal this research was for you, but you sound like you were asking a bunch of friends around you and seeing their experience with trying to get access to bidets. How many people did you talk to? Like, what was this process like? In case anyone else out there wants to replicate this when they're trying to come up with a product to sell?
Yeah, I think, okay, so I already knew that the product had market fit, like what you were just talking about. Millions of people, if not billions of people all over the world are already using this thing. They already, have it. They already, know what it is. And so the product market fit was already there. To your point about you just need to figure out how to kind of, sell it in a more innovative way or a much more, approachable way, easier to understand, easier to order, the whole unboxing and ordering experience. And the website, obviously the website needs to look good. All these other people, all these other companies that their website looks like it was built in 1995. So, there's a trust factor online as well. So there's just all these things. But, going back to your question about how did I do research around this, it was pretty informal. I just knew, first of all, I just wanted to solve the problem for myself. That's the first thing, right? I just wanted to confirm that, hey, can I solve this problem for myself? And is it easy for me to solve for myself? And when I found out the answer to that was yes, then I thought, okay, well, is this scalable? And the answer is also yes, with things like Alibaba and with, Shopify and things like that. It's obviously scalable. And that's really the only thing that I needed to do. In terms of the research, I'm a little bit hesitant to kind of advise other people to do it this way. But one thing that worked for me was because I didn't have any really disposable income, right? I didn't have money to order, all my inventory up front because, with Alibaba, there's a minimum order quantity of like, 500 pieces. And I didn't have the money for that. And so, what did I do to mitigate that risk? Well, I actually just set up my Shopify store and I ordered some samples because the factories will send you samples. And I took all my product photography, I did all my installation videos, all that stuff using that one sample that I ordered to make it look like I had a lot of these. And I started selling even before I had inventory. And so that mitigated my risk. So like my first customers that ordered, it took them a month to get their product because then I had to, once I had some orders and I ordered them and then, I shipped them out. But that's also one thing you can do. You can sell, worst case, if you can't figure out the inventory thing, to just refund everybody. And that's kind of the approach that I took. It was like, getting actual orders, getting actual people to put their credit card information in. That was the test that I really needed to pass. Just putting up a sign up page and showing your interest or signing up for a newsletter, I was concerned that they would be like false positives, right? It's easy to just give your email address. It's easy to just visit the website and kind of express some kind of intent. But it's a lot harder to actually put your credit card information in. And I didn't want a false positive. So I wanted a true positive. And that's why, I had the customer go through the full experience before I even bought my own inventory.
Yeah, I mean, this is an approach that a lot of people recommend as well. Even if you're like launching a Kickstarter, for example, you're essentially doing that. You're taking kind of pre-orders up front. But you said that you wouldn't necessarily advise people to take this approach. Why not? Like, what could have gone wrong?
I don't know if something could have gone wrong. I don't know. It just feels weird. It seems a little bit deceptive. You're telling your customer that you have it already, but you don't. There's a little bit of a deception there. So you need that confidence. I guess what I'm saying is that it's a slippery slope. If you're selling something that's hard to procure yourself as an entrepreneur, you're selling it and you're using that money to kind of build the business, what happens if it doesn't work out? You have to give everybody their money back, but you don't have the money anymore. So it's just very slippery. I think it requires a lot of maturity and responsibility. I don't know. I know a lot of people that are also e-com entrepreneurs that I wouldn't think that it would work well for their idea.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that if it all goes right, then nothing gets hurt. But then when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. But you mentioned that there could be some ideas of where this wouldn't work. Well, you don't have to give specific examples or companies, but like what kind of criteria do you think needs to be met before you try this approach of pre-selling before you actually have the inventory?
Yeah, I think it needs to be very easy to procure. So it's not something that you're building customized for yourself. Like there's that Scully helmet. I don't know if you heard about it, but they did really, really well on Kickstarter. It was a helmet that had like a camera in it. It was like a smart helmet for motorcyclists. and they had lots and lots of orders. They made millions of dollars in revenue, but they were still trying to figure out how to make the product work. And at the end of the day, the whole company went under, and everybody that gave them money as a pre-order lost all their money, and they're not going to get their product. So I think the product has to already exist. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to get inventory shipped to you quickly. And I think that's pretty much the two major criteria. And also I think you wouldn't need much money to kind of set up your store. Like for me, really, I just needed a couple $100s to set up my Shopify store and like buy a theme and kind of, set everything up. So I think if your product requires you to still do a lot more R&D, or you still haven't found your supplier yet, or you still don't know, like you still haven't even used it for yourself, you haven't given enough time to test it for yourself, then I think it can be a problem.
Okay, so you basically had a product already. You found a supplier on Alibaba or wherever you looked. The distribution's already set up for them to get it to you. All you want to do is minimize the risk because of these minimum order quantities. You wanted to make sure you hit that minimum order quantity before, or at least get a significant amount of sales to justify a business before diving in. Were you able to meet the minimum order quantities off of that initial run, or did you just get enough to validate?
Exactly. It was all about validation. It was that, okay, well, in the first week, I actually sold like 20 of them, which was a lot more than I had thought that I would sell. And given that, I was like, oh, well, if that's it, in a few months, I can meet the MOQ, minimum order quantity. But, that's okay for me to take the risk. So, put something on my credit card, I had some money, like I should also say I have a full-time job, and that full-time job kind of acted like my investor or my financial, I guess my VC, you could call it. And so I had the money coming in there. It's a cash flow issue, right? Because when you're ordering, like, I had cash coming in every month or every other week through my salary, but an MOQ of 500 pieces is still going to be, like thousands and thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. It's not something that you just might have laying around. So yeah, a lot of it was just, just mitigating that risk and knowing that, hey, you're going to make this money back. And that's when I did it.
Okay, cool. So how did let's say someone wants to follow this path and they want to do what you did. They contacted a supplier. They have a supplier set up. And they're ready to go. They have the site set up already to take these orders. How did you drive traffic to? Like, how do you actually get people in the door to potentially buy the product or at least check it out?
I used two ways to drive traffic from right away. One was Facebook ads, and the other one was Google ads. That's pretty much it. I had a few hypotheses, like these are the types of people that might be interested. Anybody that traveled to a country before that uses them. Maybe they were on vacation and they went to Thailand where they have them and they're coming back now. Try to target people like that, or obviously people that are searching long tail keywords for things like how to install a bidet or things like that. Targeting those people. So that's how it worked out. And actually, that's how I got a lot of my traffic in the beginning.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. You have the site set up. You're not going to want to wait around for organic search traffic to come in because that'll take too much time. Pay for the visitors, pay for the traffic first just to validate. Do you remember how much you invested early on during this validation phase?
Yeah, it was very low. It was like $200, maybe $200 or $300.
Okay, and obviously, when you do launch, anyone out there that has tried running ads, it takes a while to improve your targeting and your ads to actually make it profitable. At that point, were you thinking about that? Like, was it profitable in the early stages when you were just trying to validate, or did it matter?
Yeah, I think this is also a really good question. The thing with Facebook ads in the beginning, especially Facebook, I don't know so much about how this would work on Google, but with Facebook specifically, really what you're looking for is signs of life. So yeah, my customer acquisition cost was very high. It was like 4 times as high as it is now. And so it was very hard. It was very expensive for me to drive traffic because I didn't really know what I was looking for. I didn't really know who I should be targeting, when, what they like, what their interests are. I didn't really understand, quote unquote, what my customer's avatar looked like. I didn't know. And so you're just really looking for signs of life. Like, is it, even if it's profitable by like 5 cents, okay, there's signs of life here. And once you know that there's a pulse, then you can kind of start experimenting and try to optimize those ads. And so that's what I did. If you look at my earlier data, like my customer acquisition cost was very high, my profitability was very, very low. But now over time, since it's been about 13 months now that I've had the store, and now it's like, I actually keep this graph. I make this graph on Excel. It's now starting to look exponential. Even though I'm running the same budget for my ads, I'm just targeting different people. I've also started leveraging lookalike audiences. So now I think lookalikes is very, very powerful, because now Facebook knows over the last 12 months of all the people that have been on my site, that have been active on my site, and that have bought on my site. The lookalikes, I can target people that look like those people. And so it takes time to develop what that lookalike audience looks like. And once you have that, then I think, you have a better chance of success, especially when it comes to niche products. I think especially for niche products.
Okay, that makes sense. So this, I like this approach that you've taken, because it's pretty methodical, right? You looked for a product, you tested it out using Facebook ads, you already looked up the supplier and everything, got everything ready to go, and it sounded like a pretty step-by-step approach. What was the timeline during this entire phase? Like, by the time you decided that I wanted to do this and actually started researching suppliers, how long did it take from that point until, let's say, the end of your validation phase, where you realized, okay, this is a potential business?
So when I got my first sample in, really, I think the timeline starts when my first sample came in from my supplier. I was actually sitting on the sample for a while. I didn't do anything with it for a while. I don't know why. I think it was just because I didn't have that, I didn't have any positive feedback. Like, I didn't have anything to tell me to keep going. But it took me about 3 months since when I got my sample to actually use it and to actually start like playing around with it and experimenting with it. And so if I didn't just take that extra 3 months, I think in total, because it took me 3 months to even do anything, but after that, it took another 3 months for me to have everything set up, for me to negotiate with the supplier. Actually, I had to get a couple suppliers, not just one. I experimented with several to see who had the best quality. So that took some time too. But I think in total, if it took me 6 months, but I think it would have been possible in 3 months. But going to, why it took slower in the beginning, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to understand this, especially with e-commerce, is you need those wins. You need those quick wins, because those quick wins will tell you to keep going. When I made my first 20 sales in the first week, I was hooked. Like, I was going like turtle speed for those 6 months before that week. But as soon as that week hit and I made those 20 sales by the end of that week, it was like I did a 180-degree shift. Like, I was a totally different person. I was no longer moving at turtle speed. I was like, just always on about, okay, how can I sell more? Okay, what's my next optimization? Okay, how can I target this thing next? Okay, I just start thinking about new products, and so I think that's very important. You need to, you can't take too long. You need to strike when the iron's hot and keep the momentum up, because that's what's actually going to push you.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point, which is that a lot of times maybe the entrepreneurship is glamorized, where they say, oh, you just got to get that motivation yourself, dig deep inside yourself and try to find a way to force things to work and just, cultivate all of this motivation out of nowhere. But what you're saying, which I think is a much more kind of realistic, pragmatic way to think about it, is that you have to set yourself up to gain motivation, right? You're saying that this momentum is so important early on, and you need this positive feedback, which is what you were talking about earlier, to keep you going, actually to keep you interested and keep you motivated to keep on working on the business. So now when you look back on it, what would you do differently to make sure that you could get those early quick wins to, essentially get things going a little bit sooner? Because obviously it worked out in the end for you, but it could have been a totally different story where you kind of just stalled out and never continued working on this. So what do you think you would do differently to, I guess, ensure that things would get moving a little bit better?
Well, I think now that I know what I've been through, like now that I know what's possible, I would just do it a lot faster. My second store, I'll be like, okay, well, my first store is already doing this much in revenue. Like, I can do that again for many more different products, different stores. So I think just the fact that I've done it before, I can do it faster the second time. But if I didn't have success on my first store, I don't know if I would have that same kind of motivation to do it at the same pace and the same effort that I would. Maybe I would just have done it with the same effort. Those same 3 months where I kind of was really lazy, that probably would have happened again if I didn't have experience or some success in a previous one already. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think trying to get those quick wins, just trying to think of, okay, well, what's the next milestone I need to do? Okay, just, scratch that off the list, reach those milestones.
Yeah, this idea of doing it faster is also very important. You always want to keep moving. I think the issue that the entrepreneurs run into is that maybe they spend too much time thinking and planning on what to do rather than actually taking action. Did you encounter this in those first 3 months that you're talking about, where you kind of just got the sample but then didn't do anything with it? Like, what made you actually kind of, get off your butt and actually start making progress on the business?
Well, actually, what my background is even before I got my full-time job. Before that, I actually had my own tech company. I started when I was in university, and that didn't. I mean, that was not a successful tech venture. It was one of those things, where you watch that movie, The Social Network, and you're like, hey, Zuckerberg could do it, and he's like super super rich now. Like, you know what, I'm going to do it too. And that was kind of where that initial thing came from, and that just wasn't very successful for me. But I learned a lot, right? And I learned about the power of iteration. I learned about, started reading things like Eric Ries's The Lean Startup, started reading books like from Ben Horowitz, Hard Thing About Hard Things, books like The Innovator's Dilemma, books like, I just read so much during that time when I had my startup that was when it was failing. I just really kind of matured from a kid who just wants to get rich quick to someone who realized, okay, well, there's no such thing as get rich quick. There is, you have to take 3 years of your life to just try to learn something to set yourself up to succeed. So it's almost like you're not just going to be successful by trying the first time. It's almost like success your first time looks like just being ready to be successful, and had a lot of this philosophical kind of awakening when it comes to things like this. For example, this crazy realization that I realized was the word travel, right? Or the word work. Work in English we know is work, is to put in work, put in effort to get something done. Actually, in French, that is travailler, right? Which actually has the same root word as the word travel. So in the origin of the word, travel meant to actually work. So it meant that, okay, well, if I wanted to become the best blacksmith in the country, I might have had to go find my master. I was the apprentice. I had to go find a blacksmith master. That person might have been on the other side of the continent or the other side of the country, and I would have to travel for months, if not years, to get to this person. I'd have to stay in people's barns, help them with the chores around the house to earn my keep. I'd have to go, there, talk to that person, research and find out more about this field, find somebody else. So even just the fact that you were going to find your master was work. But when you found your master, that was what was success. And then the second part of success was, okay, now I need to learn as much as I can and become my own master blacksmith. And so there's always these two steps. And I think it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. You need to set yourself up to succeed first, and that takes work. And then after that, work even harder to actually achieve, your what you envision success to look like.
So you're basically saying you had to travel from these different companies or projects that you're working on sometimes you're not actually at your end goal, but it was part of the process that you had to go through in order to ultimately end up where you are today. And once you get to your kind of destination at this point, that's when you can really cultivate the success for finally after you kind of arrive. But still, this is probably just one step in your entire journey of entrepreneurship. Your next company, your next one, your next success over and over again. So I think that's an important point too, where I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they think, okay, I'm just going to start my first business and it's going to be successful. If it doesn't work, then kind of give up. But you're saying that sometimes those failures are just part of the journey because it's necessary for you to learn those lessons, necessary for you to go through those things before you can ultimately arrive at your end destination.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Cool. So yeah, this I think you said earlier on too that you had a lot of ideas for things you wanted to do, and you finally settled on the Deef after recognizing that this was a problem that you had yourself. I think other entrepreneurs out there have this. It's a gift and a curse where you're always constantly thinking about new companies to start, new products you want to add to your store, to your catalog. Do you still encounter this? Like, how do you battle to make sure that you're focused specifically in your case on these handheld bidets and bathroom accessories?
Oh man, I think you just like asked the ultimate question for me. Like I constantly battle this every day, and what I've come to now is to channel these other ideas. So do the ideas and work on the ideas that actually have synergy with what you're already doing. So let me give you an example. So while I was doing the Deef, I actually had a lot of these other, when I started working on Shopify, I became a Shopify merchant. I had never been a Shopify merchant before. Now I'm a Shopify merchant for the first time, and I want to solve my own problems now. So for example, things like, little things like, the currency doesn't work really well, and, maybe I should just build an app to fix that, or hey, I'm looking to sell my business, but there's no marketplace where I can go sell my business. Maybe I should develop a marketplace where I could sell my Shopify store. So I had all these ideas, and a lot of them they were all channeled around Shopify. But it wasn't anything that I felt like I was really feeling much of a frustration. So that became like my litmus test is this problem that I'm having as a Shopify merchant really that frustrating that it's like keeping me up at night, and that's why I have to solve it. So that's what kind of weeded out a lot of majority of the ideas, like 9 out of 10 of the ideas. Now, the one idea that I have still that I am very passionate about in parallel with my current business is called Scout. It's scoutcr.com. And Scout is actually this app that will notify you when abandoned cart happens. So it's a very, 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 very basic app. It's like it took like a weekend to develop, but essentially what I found that made a big, big success for my store as my Shopify store. Like the number one advice I would give to everybody who wants to scale from, let's say, doing $10,000 a year to doing $100,000 a year, I think really that is to talk to your customer. Call up the customers that have bought already. Call up the customers that haven't bought, that have left their phone numbers on their abandoned cart. Call them up. Ask them, why didn't they buy, or why did they buy? What questions do they have? What are they looking for? What other things do they want to buy? Just have those conversations, because that's what's going to teach you what really your customer is looking for. We have cognitive biases. Like as the person who set up your own store, like, oh yeah, that's easy to understand. Like I sell these 3 products. My major product is on my homepage, which was actually the case for me. My major product is on the homepage. I sell these 2 other products, but they're pretty easy to find. I'm sure somebody that's on my website can find it. But I actually had a really big abandoned cart problem when I first started. Like for every one sale that I made, there was like 3 that were being abandoned. Like people had typed in all their information, and when they would click on choosing their shipping method, they would just close it and they would just not come back. And I knew that I needed to figure out how to solve this because, potentially, 75% of my sales are just like not even happening. So I just started calling people. I would go into the abandoned checkouts part of my orders dashboard in my Shopify admin. I'd click on abandoned carts, and I would see all the abandoned carts that are there. And I would, first I had that auto email thing going out, but that success rate was only like 5 to 10%. Best month I had a 20% success rate on my auto emails. But when I started calling people saying, hey, you just, you didn't end up checking this out. Is there anything that I can help you with? This is a courtesy call. Like, is there anything that you need? Anything I can help you with? Any questions that you need answered? I'm here for you. And I think it works because it's a niche product. And so people don't mind getting calls from, I think, niche product merchants. And especially when you say, hey, I'm the owner of this website, they also feel like, oh, wow, okay, someone, like the owner is actually calling me. And that changed everything. Like, honestly, just by me calling up my customer, it changed everything. I found out from one conversation that they needed this complimentary product, which I sold. It was a hot water mixer. They said that I don't want to buy this bidet unless it's going to have hot water too. And I was like, oh, well, I actually sell that product. It's on the second page. Oh, I didn't know that. So I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. I had a cognitive bias. I thought that somebody would be able to find it out if they wanted it, but I put it on the front page. And literally overnight, my abandoned carts dropped significantly. Not just that, but my average cart value went up by $20. So like literally, like the average that week went from being $80 per checkout, it went to being $100 per checkout, just like that in the next week. And I'm 95% confident that it was because of that change that I made. And it's little things like this that will grow you into like a much more successful business. And I would not have been able to do that if it wasn't for calling my customers. So that's why I built Scout. So Scout is just like, it just links to your messenger. And anytime an abandoned cart happens, within 15 minutes, I get a notification, hey, John Doe just abandoned their cart. This is what was in their cart. Do you want to call them now? I just click a button and it starts dialing them. It's changed everything. So because I started using Scout for myself, and by using, it wasn't called Scout at the time. It was just like a quick hack that I made. But it took me from 20% abandoned cart recovery to 60% abandoned cart recovery. Not only that, but then I started upselling. So many times somebody had $60 in their abandoned cart, but they ended up, after having a call with me, ended up buying $240 worth of stuff. And that just happened again and again and again. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm benefiting from this, I'm sure other niche product merchants can benefit from this as well, which is why I've turned that now into its own product. And so to your question, I think it's about synergy. If you're having a lot of other ideas, and a lot of entrepreneurs have that curse, at least try to find the synergy with what you're doing already.
That makes sense. So this approach with calling customers is definitely different than what I've heard as well, where I think what you tried initially, which is just to set up those automatic emails that will email someone when they abandon the cart. What made you take that first step? Like, did you always feel comfortable? It's not necessarily cold calling because they're obviously expressing intent in buying the product, but still these customers probably aren't expecting a call. Did you feel comfortable the very first times you were doing this?
No, honestly, no. But I knew that they weren't cold calls. Just like you said, I knew that they were hot calls because these guys were like just one click away from actually making a purchase. So I know that the intent is there. The other thing was, actually in the beginning, I wasn't calling them right away, right? Because I didn't have this app that would tell me right away. So it might have been a week later that I end up calling the person. And so that was they're a little bit confused, why are they getting the call? But again, because it's a niche product, because they have the intent, it was pretty easy to have. And again, it's the same thing with the initial, when you build that momentum around getting started, you're always going to feel friction at the beginning. But if you want to grow your business, you also have to grow your personal self. Personal development has to come before your business can grow. It's not the other way around, because your business is an extension of you. And so if you want your business to grow, you yourself have to grow first. I think inherently it's just like it's a universal law. And so by calling somebody up and you're shy, and I know I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that started beta testing Scout and they're like, I'm too shy to call. But I'm saying, okay, well, if you want to grow your business, you have to grow yourself too. And you have to step outside your comfort zone. And so when I started doing that, I started getting really good feedback from my calls. Now I can't wait to call an abandoned cart customer. Now I actually look forward to having an abandoned cart so I can call them. So it's like a totally different, I think once you start and you get that positive feedback, it gives you the confidence to keep doing more of it.
Makes sense. So you mentioned earlier on that you do have a day job still. And you said when you first started doing this, you were still calling them a week after because you didn't have an automated service for this that you built just yet. Now today, how do you, squeeze in the time? Like when are you making these calls? Is there a certain number of hours or maybe days that needs to be done within? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, now I try to do it the same day. For example, if I'm at work, I take my lunch hour. Like I'll eat at my desk. I won't go out for lunch. I'll bring my lunch with me. I'll eat at my desk, and during my lunch hour, I'll make my calls. Or like for example, actually a lot of my checkouts happen on the weekend, so that's fine. A lot of it happens after hours, like after 6 p.m. Like I would say 80% of my sales happen after 6 p.m. Or on a weekend. And so it kind of works out already. But I would say call them right away. What I've seen a few times happen, which really really upset me when I first found out that this was happening, was people were on my site, they abandoned. I would call them like within 10 minutes of them abandoning. And when I was on the phone with them, they would tell me, hey, I'm actually on Amazon looking for a cheaper price. And I was like, oh man, because I've spent money on that person's traffic, right? I had to spend $1 or for example, whatever X dollars or whatever it is for them to actually get on my site. And so now I've spent money on them and they're not even going to convert me. They're going to convert with one of my competitors who didn't even buy any ads against them. So that really upset me that my competitors who were not driving paid traffic to their product, they're kind of taking it off me. So that really upset me. But that motivated me even more, that I need to call these customers up. So when I called this person up, he just admitted to me that he was on Amazon looking for a lower price. Well, I just I didn't match that. He found a really, really low price, which I didn't want to match. But I just told him, look, you get this customer service. I'm the owner of this company. I'm calling you up. I'm here to help you. If you have any problem with installation, these other guys, they're not going to be able to help you. I'll help you. Call me up. This is my personal number, and I'll help you. And so the person ended up coming back and buying again, not just buying that one for their one bathroom, but buying one for each of their bathrooms. So the upsell also happened. And so I think it's important to do it right away, because that's when it's the most relevant to that person. That's when they're already in the mood to buy. I think if you wait a week, they're onto something else. Chances are they might have bought it from somebody else. Mm-hmm. So that might be too late.
Cool. So for someone that wants to start doing this, whether using an app like yours or just doing the way that you're doing it manually before by looking at cart banners and calling them up themselves, can you give us an idea of your script, I guess, that someone can work off of? They pick up the phone and call a customer. What should they be saying?
Yeah. So hi, my name is Ahmed. I'm the owner of GetNadif.com. I saw that you were on my website and that you showed interest in these products. I just wanted to call. This is a courtesy call. I just wanted to call and see if there's anything I can help you with. Are there any questions that you had? I'm here to help. Was there an issue with the price? Let me do what I can to make you happier, to answer your questions. It's very straightforward. It's exactly like that script. And just listen, and then just wait for your customer to keep talking. And if you're not sure with really what they want, just ask them more questions. But really, you're looking to listen. Mm-hmm. You're really looking to listen first. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not calling them to try to pitch something. You're really trying to learn from them what their objections are or what their issues might be.
Exactly. It's called question-based selling. Actually, I learned about this a long time ago. It's called question-based selling. You're not selling by pitching first. You actually listen to what their needs are, and then you kind of cater your pitch to what they just told you their need was.
So much more customized than just kind of blanket pitch to the same thing to everybody. That makes sense. So what you mentioned too, that the upselling was a big part of it. It sounded like a surprise that you didn't expect with these cart abandonment calls that you're making. How did that work? Were you also, purposefully trying to upsell them on something, or were they just organically decided to buy more because you were talking to them?
Well, yeah. So both. One was because my product was also unique in the sense that you can have one for each bathroom. So when people just have one in their cart, I know that most houses have more than one bathroom. At least you have two. At least you could have up to 4 bathrooms in your house. So I would just ask the question, how many bathrooms do you have? Just start it off as a question. I have 4, but I just want to buy one to see how it works first, and then I'll buy the other 3. So I'm okay, well, interesting. Well, because I give free shipping with my product, I could say, well, if you're buying all 4, I don't have to send. I can actually give you a cheaper price because whatever I would save in shipping, I can just give it back to you. Plus, if you're worried about quality, I have a warranty, and if you have any problems at all, I just replace it for free. And so that just totally took away any of their concerns with it, because I just told them that any concern that you have, you have the warranty worst case if it doesn't work out. So yeah, that's how it worked. But again, that's just because my product is that way. But if you have another product, let's say, I don't know what it is, but just find out, maybe it's around Christmas, maybe you ask is there something that your friends might like, or maybe you can kind of gift it for their friends. Shopify also has that gift card feature. I'd be happy to give you a free $5 gift card that you can send to your friends. Yeah, and that $5 gift card doesn't cover the whole product, but if their friend might want it too, then they'll use it and get $5 off. So again, there's just so many. You just get creative with it, right? And you'll learn more as you have more calls. I can't just give a mechanical script of, hey, this is exactly what you say to get sales. It's going to be different for each product and different for each person and different for each customer type. But once you start calling, you'll just learn. And then, by the time you're making your 30th call, you'll be like a pro.
Yeah, I think one big thing that's going to happen across the board when you are calling customers is the trust factor just goes up, right? When they're talking directly to a human rather than just going through a site, especially if you're saying the owner or the founder of that particular product or website, it just improves so much of the trust factor that people feel much more comfortable spending more with you or coming back to spend again with you.
So if I could just say one more thing,
yeah.
I think you said something really important that just gave me this realization is, I know that Shopify in themselves, one of their mandates, and I think you would probably know this more than I would, but it's to kind of bring that human element back to shopping, right? When we used to go into the store to buy things from the stores, it was because there'd be a person there, we can ask our questions, we have confidence, we were buying from that person. There was like a personal, there was like an avatar associated with like the business that you're buying from. But now with online, it kind of disappears, and now it's you're buying from this faceless white label kind of thing. But when you're having a conversation, you're bringing that face back to your business, which is actually what people want. I think that's still why retail, like brick and mortar stores, still exist. And so, if we can mimic that experience still online, that's going to be very successful.
Yeah, definitely. And, so now that we're on the topic of keeping it kind of personalized, this isn't not going to be scalable, right, for you long term once this business keeps on growing. Do you have plans to outsource this or delegate this to other people? What are your thoughts on doing that?
Yeah, of course. I think right now I'm not there yet, so I'm not thinking about that yet. But I think, for example, right now I get maybe 5 abandoned carts a day, which is not much. I can deal with that. Even if I got 20 a day, I feel like I could deal with it. And so that's still quite a bit of growth left for me to have to worry about it. But I think worst, if it's like a really, really big business and you have thousands of abandoned carts a day or hundreds of abandoned carts a day, then yeah, I would say just, outsource it to a VA, like in Indonesia, in Eastern Europe or something like that. I feel like this is I definitely think it's a scalable process.
Definitely. Cool. So you also mentioned in some of the pre-interview answers that you gave about Facebook ads being another key driver for your traffic and sales. Tell us about your strategy on there. Like, I know you initially were talking about how you were using Facebook to test early on. Your cost of acquisition was 4 times what it is today. Tell us about that process. Like, how were you able to drive that down over time?
I think it has to do with a lot about that lookalike audiences. You have to give it some time for Facebook to learn what your customer looks like. So if you're not familiar with lookalike audiences, there's a lot of great blogs out there. There's this guy, John Loomer. John Loomer has this great blog on Facebook ads. I follow a lot of his work. I get a lot of my tips and advice from this person, John Loomer. You can just Google it, and I'm sure you'll find his website. But yeah, essentially what you need to do is just start driving traffic to your site. Even if your conversion rate is really, really low, create the pixel on conversion. And now there's that Shopify Facebook pixel that you just have to just put 1 pixel in there, and just see who are the people that are converting. So depending on how slow the growth of the business is, but let's say it takes you 6 months to really drive, let's say 100 sales. Okay, well, that's fine. Now create a lookalike audience around those 100 people or those 100 sales, and find more people like that. So a lot of it is, I think Facebook is a great business. They have a great business model. They're actually doing all the hard work for us merchants, in the sense that they're learning who our audience should be. So I think just trusting like the Facebook algorithm worked for me. I think just drive as much traffic as possible in the beginning so that you can help Facebook help you.
And do you remember how long it took before you started seeing significant decreases in the cost of user acquisition?
I would say it was like 6 months in.
Okay, yeah, just kind of give an idea for the listeners if they're thinking about doing this, like not to kind of give up too early, and actually give it the time that you're saying it needs.
But you also need, I would say one thing, it's you can't rely on Facebook alone, right? Because you need to kind of add that multiplier effect to it. So I found like other traffic sources. I mean, so Google's obviously one of them. Twitter's another one. Pinterest, Houzz, all these other channels that already exist that can drive traffic to your website. Use them, because you might, Facebook will also, like, you don't have to come through Facebook for Facebook to learn about that person, as long as they have as long as they're signed into their Facebook account, it couldn't, like they could be coming from Twitter to your site, but if they're already logged into Facebook, Facebook still knows who they are. So don't just rely only on Facebook. Try to get as much traffic from everywhere as possible. I just think that Facebook is the best way to scale once you have that lookalike profile down.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, speaking of other sources, I think you mentioned in a pre-interview about organic search being very helpful for you, specifically the early investments of building backlinks. So tell us about this. Like maybe we start off with like what are backlinks and why are they important?
Man, to be honest, I don't even know if I can answer that question. I'm still a student of all of this stuff. I'm not an expert. I'm still learning. Even my store, I don't think I'm very successful. I think I need to do a lot more than my store already does. So I have no idea. Like, I don't really know much about backlinks. I know like kind of what it is. It's like the way that Google search results work is it's like through a network effect. So the more websites in the world that are linking back to your website gives more authority to your website. So really it's all about, these other websites in the world that they're linking back to your site, and that tells Google that, hey, this site has more authority because a lot of other sites know of this site. So therefore, this site must be more important. That's kind of how backlinks work. So I didn't know any of this stuff. I actually just hired a VA in Indonesia. I found him through Upwork.com. That just, someone do SEO optimization for me. I didn't really know what it was. It just cost me $100. But that person actually educated me as well on what is it, how he did it. And so I would just say, if you don't know what it is, and you have $100, just, I would say hire somebody who knows what they're doing, and let them take care. Now, through that person that worked for me, I show up on the first page of the Google results for my keywords.
Wow, that's awesome. And you mentioned and when you're running all these ads and Google search and everything, organic search, building up your SEO traffic, you are looking at specific metrics. And one thing that you called out in an email to me was about trying to measure the dollars per visitors. So how did you calculate this, and why did you think it was an important figure to know?
Because so for example, let's say I drive 200 visits in a day. And from those 200 visits, I make about $200 in revenue. So those numbers for me those are low numbers. Like my real numbers are between, 300 and 1,000. And so, I'll have, let's say if I have 400 visitors that day, it's a pretty good sign that I'll probably make $400 that day. And I mean, maybe not specifically looking at one day at a time, but if you look at the last 90 days, okay, so my last 90 days had, they had about, 30,000 visitors. I actually made very, very close to $30,000 in those last 90 days. And so that's really, so really why that's important is it tells you how much that you should be willing to pay for traffic. So if one visitor is $1, and let's say my margins are, let's just say 80%. So like my cost is 20 cents on that. And so my profit's 80 cents. So really I should be willing to spend up to 80 cents for any traffic, right? Now, depending on how much money you want to make, well, obviously you don't want to just break even all the time. Maybe you want to take home, 40 cents of the dollar of every dollar you make. Okay, well, then that tells you, so from I shouldn't be spending any more than 40 cents per visitor, and that kind of becomes your benchmark. So anything that becomes more expensive than 40 cents a visitor, you just don't do it. And then as you try more things, you'll find, okay, well, that experiment did 30 cents a visitor. That experiment did 35 cents a visitor. Oh, wow. Okay, well, that experiment did 25 cents a visitor. Okay, well, how can I grow that one more? So it's just like a benchmark, just to, like you said, it's a little bit methodical. You sometimes have to become a little bit methodical. If you can't measure something, you can't manage it. And that's really where I'm coming from, is just to be able to measure it so that when you can measure it, you can manage it better.
Yeah, I think the key that you said there was that it gives you an idea of how much you can spend or that you should be spending on acquiring a customer, ideally, obviously, below the amount of revenue you can generate from them. But then also you can add in all of these things like email marketing and collecting emails, and I definitely kind of extending the value of a visitor. So you threw out some numbers there. You said $300 to $1,000 per day. So this is like at least a six-figure business for you now. And you said you still had a full-time job. What's the plan there? Do you plan on eventually quitting the job and going full-time into this? Like, what do you see yourself in the next few months?
So yeah, I mean, it's a question that I'm struggling with now. I really like my job. I like what I do. Actually, my job is helping businesses be more lean and take iterative approaches. So I'm a consultant. I actually consult for bigger businesses to be more iterative. So I like what I do. I really like it. That's what has kept me from leaving it already. If I didn't like it, I would have left already, I think. But at the same time, my side business, or like this, Get a Thief, it doesn't take as much time as my full-time job. Like I just spend about, I'd say, an hour to 2 hours a day on my business. And yeah, like I will do more than six figures. I actually earn more from Get a Thief than from my full-time job. So I think it's just one of those things. Actually, a friend of mine told me this. He recently quit his job too. He had an Amazon store, and he matched his income from his job, and he quit. Now, fast forward 5 months, he's actually looking to get hired again. Like he wants to go back. He's talking to his boss to try to get hired back. And so I asked him, why is that? He said, okay, well, there's a lot of seasonality, right? There's a lot of ups and downs. Sometimes the product is defective. You have to kind of scratch it, or, worst case, something like that happens. Or, hey, something really, like it's Christmas and my ad's no longer working. Like my customer acquisition cost went up by 3 times just because it's Christmas. And so there's all these uncertainties that come up. So he actually advised to me is that you should probably only quit when you make twice as much as your job. So that's actually I had this conversation with him a few days ago, and that's what's changed my position. Initially, I was actually looking to leave a lot sooner, but now that he's told me this, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I should wait until I'm making at least 200 a year, and then I'll quit just to kind of act as the buffer when something does go wrong, because things will go wrong.
No, for sure. And I've heard from some people in the same situation where they do have a business that's doing very well, better than their day job, and they actually end up liking their day job even more after that because they could leave whenever they wanted to. It's just this kind of freedom that you have when you have this day job, but you don't necessarily need it. I think it makes your job much more enjoyable.
You know what? As soon as you said that, you're totally right. That's exactly how I feel. I just feel more empowered at work. I don't feel like I have to listen to the stuff that I think is frustrating. So I no longer have to deal with the things that I don't like about my job. I'll just, I could either do A or B. I don't really want to do B, so you know what? I'm just not going to do it. And I'm just really going to have fun and do A and really do what I like doing at work. You're totally right. That's a really great insight, actually.
Yeah, you have the freedom to kind of design your job at that point because, like what we're saying, you could, if you get fired or you leave, it doesn't matter because you have this kind of safety net at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Cool. So, very, very successful. This business has only been around for a little bit over a year. You've already matched your income from it. Like, where do you see the business going in the next year or so? What do you want to focus on?
I want to double next year. So in terms of like my milestone is to double each year, really. Going back to the, kind of like the, I want to launch new products. So I talked about Scout CR, scoutcr.com. Scout is this app that I'm developing, and I want to continue building more Shopify apps. What I learned is I actually really like and really enjoy. Actually, one of the reasons why we got in touch was also because I like that you were helping other entrepreneurs as well. I actually found that since I have my 9-to-5 job and I'm seeing what the people there are like, I'm seeing there are lots and lots and lots of really, really bright people out there that I think are, quite frankly, underachieving their full potential. I want to help people like that, reach their full potential. I'm not to say that I'm reaching my full potential. I'm just a student. I just want to help. And so really, I think I want to build Shopify apps that will help people, get started on Shopify easier, get started on Shopify better, and then again get into a position where they can leave their job sooner. that's why I really love Scout CR, because that changed everything for me. I think if it changed everything for me, it can change a lot for a lot of other people too.
Very cool. And I'm not sure how seasonal your product is, but I think as we're coming up on we're kind of already in the holiday shopping season, especially by the time this episode comes out. Any kind of preparation or plans that you have in place to take full advantage of the holiday shopping season?
Since this is about a year old, last Christmas it was a very small store. So I didn't really have anything to leverage. I didn't have any email list to leverage. I didn't really have much of something to offer. I didn't really know what it was. So now, I haven't really thought about it, but I'm thinking, I want to do, maybe some competitions, like meme generator competitions. Like something that doesn't really have much to do with the way that I'm really thinking about it is I actually want to give back this Christmas, not really look to make more sales. I'm hoping that by giving back and starting, giving competitions for prizes. One thing that I'm thinking about doing is doing a meme competition. So I found that a lot of my customer base is Asian. And there's a lot of these funny, Asian memes, like, life of an Asian person, or, Asian problems, #Asian, things like that. A lot of people are really funny. I personally am very entertained by them because I'm, South Asian as well. There's obviously South Asian memes. I just want to do a competition. Hey, $1,000 for the best meme that gets the most likes, and just something like that. I don't know. I just want to. I don't think I'm thinking too much about how do I make more sales. I think I'm thinking a lot more about, okay, well, what can I do to just kind of like drive some like viral thing. I don't really know yet. I haven't thought about it too much.
Cool. Makes sense. Awesome. So thanks again so much for your time, Ahmed. So getnadeef.com is the website, GETNADEEF.com. Also, you said scoutcr.com is your app. Anywhere else you recommend the listeners check out if they want to follow along with what you're up to?
Oh, yeah. So I'm on Instagram, AHMIQ. I use my Instagram to share a lot of my my ideas and a lot of like things that I've learned. But that's pretty much it. I'm on Instagram a lot.
Very cool. Thanks again so much for your time, Ahmed.
Thanks, Felix.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial.